There's a piece of paper somewhere in Toronto that, just 3 months ago, would have been worth about 40 Canadian dollars. It was a session ticket to the National Bank Open Night session at Sobeys Stadium. Then, on Friday, the schedule was released, and that piece of paper effectively became impossible to find within about 30 minutes. For months, members of the Filipino community have been calling and asking the same questions. When does she play? Who does she play? Where does she play? Tennis Canada confirmed the numbers to Sportsnet. Roughly 3,100 tickets moved during that window, and then the inventory was gone. The name on the schedule was Alex Eala. She was seated 25th, and at the moment those tickets disappeared, ranked outside the world's top 20. By every convention this sport has operated under for the last 2 decades, that session should not have been the first one to sell out in the building. Coco Gauff is the world number 2. Elena Rybakina is the reigning Wimbledon champion. Aryna Sabalenka sits at the top of the rankings. And yet, the room reoriented around Eala. The story you are about to hear is not simply about a tennis match. It is about a ticket and what that ticket can prove. The 5 days that created this moment are worth mapping carefully because they compress an entire career shift into something you can literally hold in one hand. On August 3rd in Washington, Eala defeated world number 3 Jessica Pegula 4-6, 6-4, 6-0 to become the first player from the Philippines, man or woman, to win a WTA Tour singles title. 2 days later, she walked onto center court in Toronto for the first time in her career in front of a sold-out crowd and defeated Alicia Parks in 3 sets. 2 days after that, on August 7th heading into the 8th, she survived Katie McNally 6-3, 5-7, 6-4 while playing on a foot that required multiple medical timeouts. That is a compression. Champion on Monday, sellout on Wednesday, survivor on Friday. The tension inside the story is easy to misstate, so let's state it correctly. This is not Eala versus Gauff. Coco Gauff has been one of the most vocal public admirers of what Eala is building. During a press conference in the middle of this North American swing, Gauff spoke about how remarkable it is that one player can help bridge the gap between a sport and a nation that may not have had that kind of representation before. Gauff has also spoken positively about playing in the environments Eala's supporters create, comparing the atmosphere to basketball and even a World Cup. So the tension here is not personal. The tension is structural. It is about what happens when a player's popularity begins moving faster than the traditional hierarchy of tennis. For 20 years, the ticket economy of a WTA 1000 level event has followed a predictable order. The highest seeds sell the fastest. American stars tend to dominate ticket demand in North America, and reigning Grand Slam champions usually attract the biggest crowds anywhere. Eala broke that order without asking permission. Her round of 32 match on the Friday night session sold out before Gauff's center court appearances could fill the same level of demand. In fact, Gauff's earlier Toronto match was scheduled on grandstand court rather than center court. This is not a slight against Gauff, who is the world number 2 and remains one of the most bankable names in women's tennis. It is a data point showing that a new kind of gravitational force has arrived in the sport, one that does not yet fit neatly into the traditional spreadsheets. The room now has 2 centers. That is what the shock really means here. It is not that the WTA held an emergency meeting. It is that a tournament director with nearly 20 years of experience is publicly saying he has never seen anything like it. And the evidence for that new gravity begins with the market itself. Approximately 3,100 tickets moved in just 30 minutes. That is not simply a fan club phenomenon. It is a market signal, the kind of throughput that resale platforms and event operators monitor closely because it can influence where they invest money and allocate premium seating in future years. And the tickets were not being purchased for some secondary court hidden away from the main action. Sobeys Stadium Center Court, according to tournament director Carl Hale, seats 10,077 people, and the Filipino community helped fill it. Then, they filled it again for the second round. Multiple reports from Manila and Toronto also tracked resale prices climbing sharply above face value, with tickets that had originally been listed around 40 Canadian dollars reportedly appearing on secondary markets for roughly 3 times that amount. That resale figure should be treated as reported rather than independently confirmed, but the direction of the pricing tells its own story. Demand was outpacing supply, and it was happening in the largest room the tournament owns. Then there's the man watching all of this from the operations office. Carl Hale, who has been running the tournament for close to 2 decades. Carl Hale told ABS-CBN on August 6 that Alex Eala is an absolute blessing to tennis, while also making it clear that the Filipino community's turnout was not something that suddenly appeared during tournament week. According to Hale, the demand had been building for months, something the tournament operations team had been watching accumulate as anticipation around Eala continued to grow. His framing was striking because the numbers backed it up. The 10,077-seat center court sold out for Eala's opening match, and Hale said he had never seen this specific pattern during his nearly 20 years running the event. That is Tier 1 authority. This is not a fan account or a social media theory. It is a person whose job depends on understanding what will happen inside the building, and this week, the building taught him something new. Then came the peer validation. Coco Gauff echoed the significance during a press conference, saying she thought it was great for the sport and for all the players, while describing Eala as someone who is helping lead a movement in the region and opening people's eyes to tennis. More specifically, after one of Gauff's matches earlier in the year, she noted that a wave of Filipino fans had turned out to support her, not because of anything she had done against Eala, but because of the positive comments Gauff had previously made about Eala. Gauff described the experience as super cool. Leila Fernandez, whose mother is Filipino and who entered the Toronto tournament as one of the Canadian home players, has also spoken about the same surge of Filipino fan energy. Jessica Pegula, after losing the DC Open final, acknowledged the passion of the Filipino crowd as well. Put those observations together, and you have 4 different players for different perspectives and one shared conclusion. The atmosphere surrounding Eala is not standard tennis atmosphere. It is something the tour has not fully calibrated for yet. But take a breath here, because the next part is where the numbers stop being just a business story and start becoming a biography. What did Eala actually do to earn this level of attention? Because a ticket rush without a performance to support, it would be nothing more than a novelty. Eala is backed by results. On August 3rd, she came from behind to defeat Jessica Pegula, the world number 3, in the final of a WTA 500 tournament. A bagel in the 3rd set. 6-0 against a player who had been a top 5 fixture on hard courts. It was Eala's 7th top 10 victory of the season. 2 days later, she became the first Filipino player, man or woman, to win a main draw match at the National Bank Open. Speaking afterward to WTA, "Calm," Eala said, "Toronto is such a multicultural city, so it's nice for me to be here for the first time. Experience that culture. Experience that atmosphere. I felt very at home with all the people supporting me." That does not sound like a rehearsed champion's line. It sounds like a 20-year-old player located herself inside a room she had never been in before and realizing the room already knew her name. Then came the ranking that finally caught up with the story. According to the official WTA rankings, Eala had reached world number 20, a new career high, and the first Filipino player in the Open era to break into the top 20. Her season earnings had climbed to more than $5 million, while her season record stood at 35 wins and 18 losses, with 1 WTA title already secured. That is the arithmetic of a player whose audience, ranking, and results are finally moving at the same speed. For most of her career, one of those numbers had been ahead of the others. This week in Toronto, they finally lined up, and the moment they did, the tickets disappeared in 30 minutes. But the strongest evidence came on court. The moment that will stay with anyone who watched this run was not the sellout, and it was not the ranking. It was what happened on August 7th heading into August 8th against Katie McNally. Eala won the opening set 6-3 and broke early in the second, but then something went wrong with her right foot. The National Bank Open's official recap reported that she required treatment multiple times, grimaced through the pain, and was visibly hampered in her movement. She twice allowed break leads to disappear, and McNally eventually broke her in the 12th game to force a deciding set. This is a part where, in a normal script, the 20-year-old sold-out sensation retires, and the crowd quietly begins heading home. Eala did not retire. She reset. She broke McNally in the opening game of the 3rd set, held that single break for the rest of the match, and closed it out 6-3, 5-7, 6-4. The stadium that had sold its tickets in 30 minutes did not sit down for the entire deciding set. If you want one image that condenses this entire story, it is that moment. A player who was never expected to be the biggest ticket in the building, playing on a foot that looked incapable of carrying her through another set, being carried instead by a room she had built one convert at a time over the previous 8 months. Carl Hale matters again because his authority gives this story weight. He has watched Serena Williams play this tournament. He has watched Venus Williams, Halep, Osaka, and Swiatek. He knows what a superstar crowd looks like in Toronto. And what he said on the record on August 6th was that the response to Eala this year, a player making her first appearance at the event and still outside the traditional top-tier superstar bracket, was something he had not experienced in his 20 years on the job. The precise word he used was blessing. He also revealed the operational detail that may matter most. The Filipino community had been reaching out to the tournament months in advance, not the week of the event, not after Eala won the DC Open title, months earlier. That means the ticket rush was not simply a viral reaction to a headline. It was an audience infrastructure that had been quietly assembling before Eala's ranking fully justified the demand, waiting for the schedule to drop. And when that schedule finally appeared, the infrastructure activated, with thousands of tickets disappearing within half an hour. Coco Gauff, speaking as a peer rather than promoter, provided the other half of the validation when she said that one player can really bridge the gap between a sport and a nation that may not have had that representation before. That is more than a compliment. It is a description of what is happening in real time. That is a diagnosis. A player ranked among the world's best describing exactly what she is watching unfold. The tour is not in denial about Eala's rise. The tour is on the record, with multiple voices saying it out loud. And the stakes now extend far beyond Toronto. Before August 3rd of this year, there had never been a WTA singles champion from the Philippines. Now there is one. That is a piece of history that will live in tennis reference books for generations. And it happened just 5 days before the Toronto sellout we have been describing. Every WTA 1000 tournament from this point forward will be looking at the Toronto data. Roughly 3,100 tickets moved in 30 minutes, while a venue with more than 10,000 seats filled up for the opening round appearance of a player seated 25th. Those numbers could influence how tournaments think about scheduling, marketing, premium seating, and pricing. That is not simply a prediction. It is what happens when a market signal becomes impossible to ignore. She shattered records, conquered Grand Slam stages, and made an entire nation weep with pride. Yet on one of the darkest nights of her career, it wasn't her coach who reached out, and it wasn't her family. It was the wife of the greatest clay court champion of all time, breaking a silence nobody expected, and revealing a midnight phone call that almost no one knew had happened when Alex Eala needed it most. Maria Perello, the woman who has stood beside Rafael Nadal through 22 Grand Slam titles, injuries, comebacks, 2 retirements, 2 sons, and nearly 2 decades of life together, has never been someone who seeks the spotlight. She rarely speaks publicly about tennis, her husband's protégés, or what happens behind the closed doors of the Rafael Nadal Academy in Manacor, Mallorca. But this time, she spoke, and what she revealed sent shockwaves through the tennis world. More importantly, what Rafael Nadal did during those critical midnight hours could change the way you see the legend forever. To understand why, picture a young girl from Manila boarding a plane and leaving behind her language, her streets, her childhood, and everything familiar to chase a dream that almost nobody in her country had ever imagined possible. Not football, not basketball, but tennis. Alex Eala arrived at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Manacor, Mallorca, in 2018 as a wide-eyed teenager with a forehand that hinted at future greatness and a backhand that carried an unmistakable sense of fight. She had grown up watching the biggest names in tennis dominate a sport where she rarely saw anyone who looked like her. There were no Filipino stars at the top of the professional game, no established national heroes she could call and ask, "How did you do it?" She was entering a world where the path had barely been created. And in many ways, she was stepping into a sporting vacuum with nothing but talent, ambition, and an extraordinary belief that she could build that path herself. Brilliant, isolated, and entirely self-motivated, Alex Eala quickly learned that the academy didn't care where she came from. It cared about how hard she worked. From the beginning, the staff in Manacor understood they had something rare on their hands. Not simply a talented junior, but a competitor with an extraordinary level of emotional control, one that reminded the coaches of someone very specific, someone who had trained on those same courts, someone whose name was on the building. Eala's junior career began.